If you're looking for something that is kind of the opposite direction of AI, I think the best way to look is animation right now, to some degree. There's lots of great AI animation, but there's also lots of like labor-intensive, painstaking art creation when it comes to animation, even in the age of computer animation. And Benji, I'm sure that your girls are not into K-pop Demon Hunters, right?
Yeah, it's not. They don't even talk about it at all. Like, I don't have daughters that have wigs that have the same long ponytail hair style and dress up in the outfits, and then they change their names to the character's name. I don't have any daughters like that.
They probably don't sing the songs, listen to them at
No,
all.
we don't sing it all day, even when the movie's not on. And I don't know the names of the characters like Saja Boys or, the K-pop, boy band group and their theme song. I don't know any of that. I didn't record a video yesterday of me dancing to the theme song that my daughters that are toddlers were singing in the kitchen. Again, no music, no movie playing. I didn't do any of that stuff.
Well,
what is that? What's K-pop Demon Hunters?
It's a good thing that you don't know anything about it, because we're going to talk a lot about it today. And also, it's too bad that video doesn't exist, because I would have been watching that stat.
Well, it'll be on tomorrow's vlog.
We'll link that in the description. I bring up K-pop Demon Hunters because it is a sensation, right? I talked about my girlfriend earlier. She's a second grade teacher. The only thing that kids talk about is 6'7" and K-pop Demon Hunters. Those are the two things. It's a really interesting story. I don't know how much you know about the backstory of K-pop Demon Hunters, but just for context, it's, I would say, still the #1 movie in the world right now. It has started off as something that was created by Sony Animation Studios.
Oh, I do know that.
Yes.
I know the backstory of that.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about what you know so far.
And isn't K-pop Demon Hunters the #1 movie, period, on Netflix history?
I think it is. I should look that up.
It's one of the biggest movies. It's kind of like, to me, the new Frozen. Frozen was a groundbreaking movie by Disney over a decade ago, and funny enough, blew up for the same reason, and we'll talk about that. But the Sony studios that made it, the reason I'm familiar with them is they created one of my favorite movies, which happens to be an animation, which is the Spider-Man Into the Spideyverse animated movie. Because Spider-Man, just to give context, is my favorite Marvel character. I used to read the comic books. So when it came out in 2001, the Tobey Maguire actual movie, and you saw a human-looking Spider-Man flying on the screen, and it looked like New York City, it looked like the real version of the comic books, blew my mind. So fast forward 20 years later, when that Sony Studios made the animated version, right? We had done all the real movies. There's been 7, Spider-Man movies, Marvel's Endgame, whatever. When that animated video, they actually brought the comic book to life. And I was like, wow, kudos to Sony for making animation cool again, because it was going the direction of CGI and looking more real, even though it was animated. They're like, no, we're gonna go the opposite. We're gonna go back to the roots.
Very stylistic,
yeah. So then when the K-pop Demon Hunters came out, and I found out I saw a lot of correlations, even though it wasn't Marvel, it wasn't Spider-Man. The art, and even just spoiler alert, there's a lot of fighting, girl fighting, and there's just a lot of very much superhero-like movements. I was like, this is so cool. I can see the appeal as a grown-up that loves comic books, loves Spider-Man, and even that new Sony version of Spider-Man and K-pop Demon Hunters. But the other thing I was going to mention is both Frozen, which was the previous winner of the groundbreaking animation film, which was over a decade ago, and K-pop Demon Hunters, both blew up because of YouTube.
Oh, interesting. So tell me about your...
So, of course, Disney, right? It blew up because it was their feature film.
Yeah.
And that was on thing. But what happened was people were singing the theme songs of Frozen on YouTube. I know vloggers. Their name is Sam and Nia. They blew up because they had sung the theme song Frozen, right? I forgot what it was. in their
Let it
car.
go, yeah.
Let it go. Right, anyway, their kids in the back, and it went viral, and then they became family vloggers because of that. They are YouTubers because they sang that song, but they're not the only ones. Tons of people did, okay? And I remember thinking, like, I wonder what the next one was. So every time there was an animated film, Disney especially, families would do this, right? Because they saw people like Sam and Nia blowing up. Guess what? That kind of happened, but never to the same degree until K-Pop Demon Hunters. Now, I know it's the #1 movie to Sony's credit and to Netflix credit because it is like a legit movie. But guess where my kids watch it even more than Netflix? On YouTube. The music videos of K-Pop Demon Hunters, the clips of K-Pop Demon Hunters. Even when they just want to listen to the song, they're not listening to it on the Netflix platform. They're pulling it up on YouTube Music or just watching the music video on YouTube. See, it's the viralness on YouTube that helps it make. And guess what happens? You love it so much. When you want to watch a movie, you go back to Netflix to watch it because they don't have the full movie on YouTube. That's the only thing that YouTube doesn't have. But YouTube has everything else because you can find whole playlists of all those songs, the whole music video. And this is another credit to the Sony producers, whoever came up with this. Did you know late night TV, they basically film it like segments for YouTube?
Yes. Yeah. Okay?
They did this with K-Pop Demon Hunters. How many songs are just mini music videos?
Yeah, that's very true.
They are. They really are. And when I watch each one of those on YouTube with my kids, it's smart because there's a beginning and an end. Just like any music video, you don't have to watch a whole movie to get the value. But where are you doing it? Not on Netflix. You're doing it on YouTube. So I saw this already happen with Frozen. It's happening with a thing. And guess what else they're doing? They're dressing up like the characters, doing their own music video renditions of K-Pop Demon Hunters. And guess where they used to do that too? Frozen. They would dress up like Elsa, be in the snow, and then sing the Let It Go song. And those would go viral. Same thing's happening right now. So no one really talks about this because, of course, all the attention's on Netflix. Me being super biased, but just looking at the numbers and observing my kids, I'm like, wow, YouTube did it again. And even though they do great credit for the great animation, the great storytelling, and I think the culture relevance, right? Because K-pop is huge.
Yes.
And, you know, the whole kind of nature of, by the way, they even play on the whole like creator thing because they're like influencers inside the movie.
Yeah.
The bigger variable is YouTube that no one's really talking about.
That's interesting, and I want to come back to that in a second because obviously Netflix has a different perspective. Analysts kind of have a slightly different perspective.
Course, yeah.
But I think it's actually pretty compelling, relatively speaking. So we might end up with a little bit of a head-to-head here, but I want to just back up and give a little more context. So K-Pop Demon Hunters was in production at Sony Studios for 7 years. I don't know if you know this. It was kind of one of those like tortured projects from end to end where it was like cursed. You couldn't get it through this thing. And then people obsessed over this next part and they couldn't get it quite right. And then they obsessed over it. I mean, that's why it's such a good movie, right? That's why it's so popular is because people obsessed over this thing and they wanted to make it great, right? Now, at the end of it, Sony didn't necessarily, because they have their own distribution arm, right? So they could have brought it to movie theaters. They could have distributed it to other platforms, whatever. But they were kind of like, we're not sure about this. We're going to license this to Netflix. So Netflix buys the licensing rights to K-Pop Demon Hunters via Sony Studios. And slowly, over the summer, I guess, really, I forget exactly when it was released, it started to pick up steam a little bit. And so I want to read from this quote that is from the, I'm reading from Ben Thompson at Stratechery, but he's quoting Netflix's CEO Ted Sarandos during, I think, their investor call, and then he has his commentary afterwards. So he says, "We believe that this film, K-Pop Demon Hunters, actually worked because it was released on Netflix first." Now, what he's comparing it to here is releasing it in theaters versus other streaming platforms versus Netflix. So he says, this worked, K-Pop Demon Hunters only worked because it was released on Netflix first. He continues, "Look, we had a film that people fell in love with. That's first and foremost, but not in a huge way on the first day or even on the first weekend. In fact, It was the super fans who watched the movie and repeat watched the movie that drove the recommendation engine that got it in front of more super fans who also fell in love with the movie. So that ease and value that allowed folks to repeat view it. That ubiquity of distribution, which took all the guesswork out of how to watch it, when you did finally see it on your social media feed, all of this contributed to K-pop Demon Hunters blowing up all over the world. And I would argue in a way that it couldn't happen anywhere else. If anything, this actually reinforces our strategy because being on Netflix gave the film a chance to build momentum, and it allowed fans to learn the songs and watch it over and over again and to make their own posts and their own dances around K-pop Demon Hunters. Now, I'm going to read Ben Thompson's commentary, and I want to hear you respond. Ben Thompson says, there's a really interesting line here, which is, quote, in fact, it was the super fans who watched the movie and repeat watched the movie that drove the recommendation engine that got in front of more super fans who also fell in love with the movie, end quote. This is a humble admission in some respects. Sarandos isn't claiming that he or any human at Netflix knew that K-pop Demon Hunters would be a hit. Rather, it was the very structure of Netflix that discovered that an animated film was a burgeoning hit and automatically capitalized on it. What do you think?
No.
You're shaking your head no.
So, there's different layers here. A great movie is determined by how many people go and watch it. So in the case of Netflix, it'd be views, or in the case of like a movie theater, ticket sales. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. And that shows you it's a great movie because people want to go watch it, or they hear somebody else watching it and they go to watch it, or they go back again. Okay. What's one of my favorite movies in the last 5 years? I talk about it. It's like the greatest Tom Cruise movie.
Maverick.
Top Gun, right? Yeah. And I watch in theaters twice, and I constantly watch it all over again. Okay. K-pop Demon Hunters, I think equally as good. I don't know how much money it made, right? But it's different dynamics. It's not at the movie theater, it's at Netflix, okay? But which one made a bigger cultural impact?
I would say K-pop Demon Hunters.
100%.
Yeah.
That's because of YouTube.
Interesting.
Because when Maverick, which by the way, more age appropriate for adults, kids aren't necessarily watching it as much. So that's one part of it, okay? But the second part is this. There ain't no like catchy music video type of songs that people are going to sing outside, or more importantly, that are going to watch it on YouTube. You know what I watch on YouTube of Top Gun Maverick is some of those clips.
Yeah.
I like watching just real quick. If I just want to get a little motivation, I watch, Tom Cruise fly in there and blow up the nuclear site or whatever. Yeah. Okay. But it's limited to that. Yeah. My kids definitely aren't like watching it. K-pop Demon Hunters, it's endless.
Yeah.
And people are making their own renditions. That's 100% because of YouTube. So the music videos, did you know there's like women that will dress up like each character, wig, clothes. I told you my daughters are doing, I was joking about it. They were actually doing it, right?
Of course, yeah, no.
But there's people that actually do it, and then they actually sing and dance the actual music video, and then they upload it, and that on their own, I don't know how they get around the IP or whatever, gets like millions of views, like tens of millions of views. That is probably, you're talking like thousands of videos like that, okay? And then beyond that, people are watching the actual music video at the Sony place, or that the Sony uploads to their YouTube channel. You can see all that stuff. So culturally, it becomes this phenomenon. Now, let's even isolate it before what happens on YouTube and social media. K-pop. K-pop, one of the reasons it became big was vlogs. Yeah, on YouTube. Like, people don't know this, okay? The whole like K-pop band members having like diehard fans because those K-pop members were putting up vlogs on themselves, deepening the relationship with the fans, okay? Secondly, music videos. Music videos are huge. On what platform? YouTube, okay? Say they produce this like they were different music videos. I think if off the top of my head, I want to say there's at least 5, if not 6 full-fledged music videos that came out of this. It's like a musical, right?
Totally.
But not like a musical video because you can watch it with no context and it's interesting and the songs are catchy. And so you combine those two, right, with the fact that it's like a superhero movie. That's what made the movie great beyond the story. The story is number one, but then the format, right, and kind of the context of like the things. The third layer, though, is what's happening on YouTube and social media. So this is why this guy's talking about it, but he's missing one of the biggest variables. Like he said, oh, it drove the algorithm to put it in front of people, right? The algorithm that he's not talking about is the YouTube algorithm putting in front of people. And then guess what? Other creators doing their own music videos. And you're like, oh, I wonder what, like what a creator would do, like me. I see another creator that I know does this thing with other like Disney movies. It's like, oh, they made one of this. What is this? And then I see the actual music video on YouTube, and then I might actually check out the video. I mean, at this point, it's just hard to avoid the whole conversation around it. So, though what he's saying is correct to a certain degree, I'm not trying to take away the greatness of the 7 years of work and obsession and the skill and the delivery and then like all those other things, right? The story and all the different aspects of it. But what made it different than Top Gun Maverick, which was, that was the first time like a big blockbuster hit, got $1 billion in revenue at the box office, is the fact that it's culturally has an impact because of the social part of it, which I believe 90% is YouTube. And that is the fundamental difference. And that's why, like, for me, if I'm a movie producer, I don't want to taint the story. I want people to cook the way they're going to do it in this, like, draw or whatever. But I'm like, okay, how do we make this so that the music video of this song gets 1 billion views on YouTube? Because that's how you're going to actually market the actual video, even if it's on Netflix, beyond anything. This happened with Frozen. It's happening with K-Pop Demon Hunters. And it's interesting. Both those movies blew up uniquely on Frozen for the first time because of YouTube. Now it's already been tested and proven. It happened again because of YouTube. And funny enough, I would love to talk about this. I actually think that if you put out a movie on YouTube, it might not actually be as successful, and it has to do everything with ads.
We're actually going to talk about that in a second, but I want to continue down this path a little bit because I think there's a lot of richness here. So first of all, just a little bit of context. Netflix does publish kind of its top movies view counts. You want to take a guess at how many that K-Pop Demon Hunters has?
Wow. I'm going to say the actual movie itself.
The actual movie itself on Netflix.
I'm going to say 2 billion views.
No, it's 325 million, which is the most of all time.
Okay, got it. So I'm comparing it to dollars, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
By the way, this is kind of fascinating to me because what's the number of views a video gets on YouTube that's like it becomes mind-blowing?
1 million.
No, 1 billion.
Because nobody's ever done it.
Well, no, people have done it.
They have?
Yeah, there's been people doing like, I think, Neutrally, can you correct me on this? I think
it's Gangnam Style was the first one to hit 1 billion, and then Bruno Mars, Uptown Funk is at 1 billion, and then Ed Sheeran is at 1 billion.
Wow.
Yeah, so the Billy mark, right? So look, by the way,
videos.
Okay, without even looking, when Gangnam hit 1 billion views, it was like the first video that did it. Oh, actually, to be fair, no, I think Justin Bieber's song did it earlier, right? But this Gangnam Style did it really quick. How many billions of views do you think Gangnam Style has now?
3.
5.7 billion.
Wow.
Okay. So that's why when I think crazy big, I think 1 billion. That's why I said that number, like
totally.
2 billion. I thought, if Gangnam Style is like Korean artists dancing all goofy, right? Like got 1 billion. Oh, they definitely got 1 billion. This was crazy. Okay, you just said 300 million?
300 million.
Oh my gosh, I'm about to blow your mind. Okay, K-pop Demon.
Are you wondering about watch time?
No,
I have watch time.
Not watch time. By the way, watch time I think is really important. Okay. Golden is like the #1 music video from it. And when I say music video, it's just a segment from the video that they made into a music video. It's called Golden, and it's from the Sony Pictures Animation channel. official lyric video, not just like the video, the lyrics video. How many views do you think that got on YouTube? Okay, it's only 3 minutes and 19 seconds.
Oh, this is a hard one. I'm gonna guess 100 million views.
621 million.
Yeah,
double the views of the thing. Now, you and I both know that average view duration is really important, right? Like, because it's a 1.5 hour movie versus this is 3 minutes.
Yes,
but still 620 is still 620 million active views on YouTube. Okay, that's just one. Their next one, right? It's like talking about Saja Boys. The next one is Your Idol by the Saja Boys, right? K-Pop Demon Hunters, Sony Animations channel. How many views do you think that has? You probably don't even know this.
That's number 2. I don't know.
268 million.
Okay.
Next, I'm just going to go down the line because, again, like I'm flexing for YouTube for good reason. Soda Pop, that's the one my kids love, right? You're my soda pop.
I do know that one.
Okay. That one, Sony Pictures Animations channel, 402 million views. Okay. Next one, How It's Done. That's actually my favorite one. It's like so like savage what they do there to the demons. That one, 310 million views. Okay. And then okay, I keep saying Sony Animations YouTube channel, right? Because there's so many other channels that put up stuff. I'm just going to do a couple more. The Netflix family put out one called the Ultimate K-Pop Demon Hunters Song Compilation, 18 minutes. So it probably puts it. I know this because my kids watched this one specifically, 250 million views. Okay. Wow. And then the last one is, wait, let's see. Then it goes just all kinds of random channels putting up their own. Okay, look, Soda Pop Saja Girls version. So somebody created a Saja Boys music video, but the female version, and it's just like that. That has 10 million views. And then it just keeps going. I'm not even going to name the channels or the videos, but I'm just going to tell you the views of these K-Pop Demon Hunters creator-created videos. 46 million views, 91 million views. 53 million views, 63 million views, 113, by the way, free. This is another Sony Pictures animation, 113 million views, 32 million views, 100 million views, 1.7 million views. Then it goes to 526,000. Finally, we hit thousands, okay? And then next one, 10 million, 217. Okay, I could go on and on and on. I'm proving my point just on YouTube alone. I actually am shocked it's not more views on Netflix. Honestly, I thought it would be at least 500 million views. Now that'll continue going, right?
Yeah.
But there's just so many. This is the one element I didn't mention that I was joking about at the beginning. Kids. What do kids do that parents don't do? They keep watching the same thing over and over. And where can they do that over and over and over the easiest? YouTube. Because what do kids have in terms of their mind that adults don't have anymore?
Time? I don't know.
Short attention spans.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So they don't want to sit through the whole movie because they like those theme song moments. So YouTube, they like going from one music video to the next video. They're the ones giving all these views to YouTube, okay? And guess what? That's what makes it play all day in a parent's house in the background. And then you go to watch a movie with your kids. I'm telling you, I knew right away when this started hitting the headlines the significance of YouTube for this movie. And now you're looking at these views. The cool thing about these views, it's going to keep going up. I actually think faster and more than Netflix views will be. Now, tell me about the average view duration.
Well, I don't know about the average view duration. I know that this article is quoting about 500 million hours watched, which is kind of amazing to think about. But I'm thinking more about that recommendation algorithm thing, right? And the relationship between Netflix and YouTube, right? Because what you're kind of actually describing, and even Ted Sarandos in this quote, which I didn't pick up the first time around, was kind of a symbiosis between the two. And I think what you're doing is you're framing it as a YouTube first thing. I think obviously Ted would frame it as just to play devil's advocate, as a Netflix first thing.
I would actually correct that. I'd say it's a good movie first thing.
And actually, he says that as well. He literally says, look, we had a film that people fell in love with. That's first and foremost. Period. So that's one thing we can all agree on, is that the quality of the content is the most important.
So what I'm
thing.
saying is, whether it was at movie theaters, Netflix, or even Amazon Prime, I actually believe it would do really well.
And I guess that's kind of the point of this, is that in the old days of the movie industry, the problem is that you wouldn't have as many at-bats because there's only so many movie theaters with so many hours in the day where people are watching movies for so long.
Yes.
Right? And so studio executives would have to go and they'd have to choose which movies would be seen. And based off of how K-Pop Demon Hunters was treated by Sony Animation, don't you think that Sony Animation wishes they held on to this, first of all?
What do you mean, held on to it?
Because they could have distributed it on their own, but they licensed it to Netflix. So Netflix gets all the upside of K-Pop Demon Hunters, basically.
Oh, see, I don't know enough about the industry to know what they're thinking or what they would desire. I still think it's a bigger win than they could have had on their own. That's my thought. Because when you say release it on their own, their option would be Amazon maybe, or
movie theaters.
Or movie theaters, yeah.
And so I guess my point is that this movie may not have made it to theaters in an old version of the Hollywood system. And that's what Ted Sarandos is saying. He's saying that he believes, and again, I agree with you that the content is the most important thing. I think everybody would agree on that. But when it comes to the actual recommendation and distribution of this thing, I think you have to give it to Netflix first, and at least in my opinion, if I'm taking a side here, because the movie was posted to Netflix first, right? And what Ted is saying is that this thing was not popular at the beginning. In fact, it was really slow developing. In fact, it was just a few people who were, this is kind of interesting because there's application to the creator space, super fans of the movie. They just happened to have it recommended on their timeline. They did one of those things where you surf Netflix for 15 hours and then you finally click a movie that you're gonna watch for 3 hours and you click on it and they fell in love with it and they watch it over and over again. And the algorithm was like, oh wait, there's some like super fans here. We should show this to more people. And then it started snowballing. Next kind of round, it's a bigger group. It goes bigger and bigger. And then it gets to this point where it becomes a cultural thing. And then people start posting to YouTube. And then YouTube starts having it in its algorithm, which gets recommended to other people. And of course, word of mouth also happens. And then it goes even further than that in the sense that then those people go over to Netflix and watch the movie. And then you've got this virtuous cycle between the two, which is that symbiosis that you're talking about, right? And so if I'm playing devil's advocate here, you could say that what Ted Sarandos is saying is that the same type of thing that we talk about on YouTube with the algorithm picking hits is what happened here on Netflix first, which then spilled out over into the broader social media ecosystem. And Ted even says this to some degree. He said, and again, of course, he's the CEO of Netflix, so he's going to frame it in something that's favorable to Netflix, right? But he says, the ubiquity of distribution, which took all the guesswork out of how to watch it when you did finally see it show up on your social media feed, all of this contributed to K-Pop Demon Hunters blowing up all over the world, right? And so that's the interesting part to me, is that, you know, first of all, this idea of the symbiosis between the two platforms every single week comes clear and clear. Netflix is buying all these shows from YouTubers. They're taking things down from YouTube because they want YouTube viewers to come over to Netflix, right? You're describing this thing with K-Pop Demon Hunters spilling out into the culture and then blowing up so that way everybody kind of reacts to it, and it then hooks into YouTube's algorithm as well. And then that level of overlap is just tighter than it has ever been, and it's clearer than it has ever been. And we're going to get to kind of the head-to-head here in just a second. But to me, I think that that's how I would frame it, is that, you know, it's interesting, that Netflix, with an algorithmic recommendation platform similar to YouTube's to some degree, is behaving similarly to YouTube in that it's picking someone who may not have been a hit and making them a hit, right? And then the second thing is that when that symbiosis happens, then it's like multiplicative. YouTube is amplifying Netflix, and Netflix is amplifying YouTube, and then it's kind of this back and forth growth thing that's going to happen until, you know, K-Pop Demon Hunters isn't cool anymore, which may never happen. So,
yeah, and I'll keep this short. I don't want to take credit away from Sony and the producers, the directors, the animators, because it's a great movie first. But my point with Top Gun Maverick is a great movie isn't going to be a cultural phenomenon. What becomes a cultural phenomenon is what spills into YouTube world, right? And people create their own versions of it. It is wild, and I've seen this many times. and it's going all the way back to Frozen when people, would literally wear a platinum blonde wig with the by the way, this kind of crazy correlation. Elsa had the ponytail, the long ponytail, and that was like she's famous for like whipping her hair out and letting her hair down, and that's when she sings "Let It Go in the Snow," and then people would wear that wig in the snow and do it. Rumi, the main character of K-Pop Demon Hunters, has that purple long ponytail. She never lets it out though. I think maybe there's a couple scenes or whatever. But that just I don't think that make or break the thing. So the movie itself is good. A couple things though I want to break it down.
Please.
This movie is also unique from a creative standpoint. And this is giving credit to whoever thought this way. K-pop is already huge, right? K-pop in itself is huge. The whole culture around K-pop music. And this is taking a K-pop band and then making it into the second aspect, superheroes, okay?
Yes.
It's a superhero movie, period. I think that part of it was what was interesting to me, and I'm in Taekwondo. So the animation of the martial arts is really good.
Yeah.
It's very accurate.
Yeah.
It's not cheesy. It looks like a like the Spider-Man movie that Sony made, okay?
Yeah.
Next thing, anime. So it takes parts of anime history and includes it where like it changes the face to look like the comic books that you would read. I was like, oh, that's cool that they implement that because it could come off as cheesy, but it was very natural. And then the last one is the music videos. Combining all of those and the storyline is what makes it so great. But my point is, it had the greatness, and the views on YouTube show it because of the cultural, I don't know, like explosiveness.
Yeah.
And that's just a platform like YouTube is the only one that can do that because, let's just talk numbers. Creators who made those music videos, they made money off of those views. If you get a video that does 10 million views,
maybe because ultimately it could be Netflix that's making that money, right? Or Sony Animation
Creative
Studios.
Rendition, if they get the ads, they're going to make the money.
That's true.
It's, but I don't know for sure. But guess where they also make the money? If they get subscribers from it and they watch other videos of theirs.
That's true. Yeah.
Sam and Nia is a good example. They actually sang the actual Frozen song. I know for a fact back then, Disney's like clamping on, it's like, hey, we're going to get the revenue from it. But did Sam and Nia lose out on opportunities to make money?
Kickstarted their career.
Kickstarted their career. And so that's the thing. Views are still so important, and that attention can create a whole new journey for you as a creator. And it's funny, we talked about this whole thing. We haven't talked about the significance for creators.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think what it did was it brought even more traffic to YouTube than that otherwise wouldn't happen. Because the thing is this, you still have to pay for Netflix.
Yeah.
So what if you couldn't watch a movie? Well, guess what? You can watch for free. Basically half the movie in music video form.
That's very true. Actually, I think that the bottom line for me is that just the power of the algorithms and that symbiosis between YouTube and Netflix, right? That no matter what your perspective is on what made it successful, everybody agrees, at least in this conversation, that the algorithms between the two platforms played an enormous role. And it just shows you how far we've come over the last 10 to 15 years, where the algorithms can be this powerful at making something like that spread. In fact, there's an interesting tidbit before we get on to the next part with Netflix here, which is that for a fact that they didn't know that this thing was going to be a hit. And you know how I know that?
How?
There's going to be no K-Pop Demon Hunters toys for Christmas this year. They tried to get them licensed with Mattel, but they can't get them into production quickly enough because it happened too late.
Oh my gosh.
So 2026 is the year that they're going to make K-Pop Demon Hunters toys. And that's too late. That's a year and a half too late. Isn't that crazy?
I'm going to tell you though, Halloween's coming up tomorrow. It's going to be the #1 outfit.
Oh, easily.
It's going to be the #1. And it's not just going to be the female characters, right? It's going to be the guys too. You're going to see a bunch of dads looking like Saja boys, or I forgot what the guy's name is.
It's going to be pretty funny.
Yeah. I should have done that with the kids. That would have been funny.
That would have been really good.